Breaking news shaking global geopolitics right now. Ukraine claims it has regained control of Crimea, a region at the center of one of the most intense conflicts of the modern era. If confirmed, this could completely change the course of the Russia-Ukraine war, NATO strategy, and global power balance. Stay with us, because what you're about to hear could redefine history. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel today. We are covering one of the most dramatic developments to emerge from the Russia-Ukraine war in recent years. Reports are circulating that Ukrainian forces have regained control of Crimea, a territory that has been under Russian control since 2014. This announcement, if fully verified, represents a potential turning point not just on the battlefield, but also in international diplomacy and global security calculations. Crimea has long been a strategic prize because of its access to the Black Sea, military bases, and symbolic value for both Moscow and Kiev. Over the past months, Ukraine has intensified military pressure using precision strikes, intelligence operations, and coordinated offensives aimed at weakening Russian control. At the same time, information warfare and psychological pressure have played a crucial role in shaping perceptions on both sides. While official confirmations are still evolving, the very possibility of Ukraine reclaiming Crimea has already sent shockwaves through political capitals, defense circles, and financial markets worldwide. Analysts are now questioning how Russia might respond, how NATO will adjust its posture, and what this means for the future of the conflict. In this video, we will break down what led to this moment, why Crimea matters so much, and what could happen next. Make sure you watch till the end, because the final implications may be far bigger than anyone expected at first glance. To understand why this development is so significant, we need to look at Crimea's history and why it has remained central to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Crimea was annexed by Russia in 2014 following a controversial referendum that Ukraine and most of the international community rejected. Since then, it has served as a critical military hub for Russian naval operations in the Black Sea. The peninsula allowed Moscow to project power, control sea lanes, and support operations across southern Ukraine. For Kiev, losing Crimea was not only a territorial loss, but also a deep national wound that symbolized foreign occupation. Over the years, Ukraine consistently stated that reclaiming Crimea was a long-term objective, even when many observers believed it was unrealistic. However, changes in battlefield dynamics, Western military support, and improved Ukrainian intelligence capabilities slowly altered that perception. Repeated strikes on supply depots, airfields, and command centers reportedly weakened Russian defenses. Meanwhile, logistical challenges and stretched resources complicated Russia's ability to reinforce the region. These factors combined to create conditions where Ukraine could challenge Russian control more directly than ever before. If Ukraine has indeed regained Crimea, it would mark the first major reversal of Russia's territorial gains since the annexation, raising serious questions about the sustainability of Moscow's broader war strategy moving forward. Military analysts emphasize that reclaiming Crimea would not have happened overnight and would require extensive planning and coordination. Ukraine's approach appears to have relied on a mix of conventional operations, long-range strikes, and covert actions designed to isolate Russian forces. Cutting supply routes, especially those connecting Crimea to mainland Russia, was likely a key objective. The Kerch Bridge, for example, has been a repeated target in the past, symbolizing both logistical importance and psychological impact. By limiting Russia's ability to move troops and equipment, Ukraine could gradually weaken defensive positions without launching a massive frontal assault. Another important factor is intelligence sharing from Western allies, which may have enhanced Ukraine's situational awareness. Accurate targeting and real-time battlefield data can significantly tilt the balance in modern warfare. At the same time, Ukraine's forces have gained valuable combat experience over years of conflict, improving their adaptability and effectiveness. However, it is also important to note that information coming from active war zones can be incomplete or contested. Both sides have strong incentives to control narratives. That is why independent verification and official confirmations remain crucial. Still, the strategic logic behind Ukraine's reported success aligns with trends observed over recent months, making the claim difficult to dismiss outright. From Russia's perspective, losing control of Crimea would be a profound strategic and symbolic setback. The peninsula has been presented domestically as a permanent part of Russia, and its annexation was widely used to boost national pride. A reversal would challenge that narrative and potentially affect internal political stability. Militarily, it would limit Russia's ability to operate freely in the Black Sea and reduce its capacity to threaten southern Ukraine. This could force Moscow to redeploy forces from other fronts, weakening its overall posture. Internationally, such a loss would damage Russia's credibility as a military power and complicate its diplomatic efforts. Allies and neutral states may reassess their positions, while Ukraine's supporters could feel validated in their continued assistance. The psychological impact on Russian troops is another factor to consider. Morale can be heavily influenced by perceived momentum, and losing a heavily fortified region could have cascading effects. That said, Russia still retains significant military capabilities and may seek to respond through escalation, cyber operations, or increased missile strikes. The coming days will be critical in determining whether this development leads to de-escalation, negotiation, or a new phase of intensified conflict across the region. The international response to reports of Ukraine regaining Crimea has been swift and closely watched. Western governments have urged caution, emphasizing the need for verified information before drawing conclusions. At the same time, many officials have reiterated their support for Ukraine's territorial integrity. For NATO, this moment could influence future military aid decisions and strategic planning. A successful operation in Crimea may strengthen arguments for continued or expanded support, including advanced weapons systems. In contrast, countries that have tried to remain neutral may feel increased pressure to clarify their positions. Global markets have also reacted nervously, as any major shift in the conflict can affect energy supplies, shipping routes, and economic stability. The Black Sea is a vital corridor for trade, and changes in control could alter regional dynamics. International organizations, including the United Nations, are likely to call for restraint while monitoring the situation closely. Diplomatically, Ukraine may leverage this moment to push for stronger guarantees and renewed negotiations on its terms. Whether this leads to a lasting resolution or further confrontation depends largely on how all parties interpret and respond to the unfolding events. What is clear is that the geopolitical landscape is shifting, and long-held assumptions are being tested. Another critical aspect to examine is the legal and political significance of Crimea's status. Under international law, Crimea is widely recognized as part of Ukraine, despite Russia's annexation. If Ukraine has regained control, it reinforces the principle that territorial acquisition by force should not be accepted. This could set an important precedent for other conflicts around the world. Politically, it strengthens Ukraine's position in any future negotiations, allowing Kiev to argue from a position of increased leverage. Domestic politics within Ukraine may also be affected, as such a development could boost public morale and national unity. However, managing expectations will be crucial. Holding territory can be as challenging as capturing it, especially under continued threat. Ukraine would need to secure infrastructure, protect civilians, and prevent counterattacks. International support in reconstruction and stabilization could become a new focus. At the same time, Russia may seek to contest the situation through diplomatic channels, claiming misinformation or temporary setbacks. This battle of narratives will play out across media platforms and international forums. Understanding the legal, political, and humanitarian dimensions is essential to grasp the full impact of what may be unfolding in Crimea right now. Media coverage and information warfare are playing a massive role in shaping public perception of events in Crimea. In modern conflicts, controlling the narrative can be almost as important as controlling territory. Both Ukraine and Russia actively communicate their versions of events to domestic and international audiences. Social media, satellite imagery, and open-source intelligence have made it harder to hide developments, but also easier to spread conflicting claims. Analysts and journalists are carefully examining visual evidence, official statements, and independent reports to piece together the reality on the ground. This environment creates uncertainty, but it also allows for faster accountability. For viewers, it is important to approach breaking news with a critical mindset, understanding that early reports can change as more information becomes available. The speed of modern news cycles often prioritizes immediacy over confirmation. That said, the consistency of reports pointing toward Ukrainian gains in Crimea has drawn serious attention. If confirmed, it would represent a rare and dramatic shift in a conflict that has often been defined by slow, grinding changes. The coming verification process will be crucial in separating fact from speculation and determining the true scale of what has occurred. Looking ahead, several scenarios could unfold depending on how the situation develops. One possibility is that Ukraine consolidates control and focuses on defending its gains, forcing Russia into a more defensive posture. Another scenario involves Russia attempting a counteroffensive, potentially escalating the conflict further. Diplomatic efforts could also intensify, especially if major powers see an opportunity to push for negotiations. The role of external actors, including the United States and European Union, will be critical in shaping outcomes. Sanctions, military aid, and diplomatic pressure remain powerful tools. Additionally, regional security arrangements in the Black Sea may need to be reassessed. Countries bordering the sea have a direct interest in stability and freedom of navigation. For Ukraine, the challenge will be balancing military success with long-term sustainability. War fatigue, economic strain, and humanitarian concerns remain pressing issues. For Russia, adapting to potential losses without triggering broader instability will be a major test. Each decision made in the coming weeks could have long-lasting consequences beyond the immediate battlefield. The uncertainty makes this moment particularly significant and worthy of close attention. Public reaction within Ukraine and Russia is another important dimension of this development. In Ukraine, news of regaining Crimea would likely be met with widespread celebration, seen as justice after years of occupation. Such a moment could strengthen national resolve and reinforce trust in leadership and armed forces. In Russia, reactions may be more complex, shaped by state media narratives and official messaging. Some may view it as a temporary setback, while others could quietly question the direction of the war. Public opinion can influence policy choices, especially during prolonged conflicts. Internationally, diasporas and advocacy groups are already amplifying the news, calling for continued support or restraint depending on their perspectives. The emotional impact of symbolic territories like Crimea cannot be underestimated. They carry meanings that go beyond maps and military value. This is why control over such regions often becomes a focal point in conflicts. How governments manage public expectations and emotions in this moment will shape their ability to navigate what comes next without losing strategic focus. As we conclude this analysis, it is clear that reports of Ukraine regaining control of Crimea represent a potentially historic turning point. Whether fully confirmed or still unfolding, the implications are already being felt across military, political, and economic spheres. This moment challenges long-standing assumptions about the conflict and highlights how rapidly dynamics can change. It also underscores the resilience and determination that have characterized Ukraine's approach throughout the war. At the same time, it reminds us of the risks of escalation and the human cost that continues to grow. For viewers and observers, staying informed through credible sources is more important than ever. The story of Crimea is not just about territory, but about international law, national identity, and the future of global order. Whatever happens next, this development will be studied and debated for years to come. We will continue to monitor updates, analyze verified information, and bring you clear breakdowns of what it all means. Thank you for watching and being part of this conversation as history continues to unfold before our eyes in real time. If you found this breakdown useful, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it so others can stay informed. Comment below with your thoughts on how this could impact the war and global politics.